Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is Kyle is Wonderful here again with another wrestling review. This time for Smackdown from June 17th, 2022. A day that will probably go down in the history books in all of WWE. If you guys have not heard, the report that came out Wednesday in the Wall Street Journal front page, all about Vince McMahon and spending money, company money, to hush at least one woman, and now they might be uncovering other things that he might have done in the past, and $3 million allotted in hush money. And this morning, Friday, June 17th, Vince McMahon has stepped down as CEO of WWE, effective immediately. His daughter, who stepped down from her chief brand officer job a month ago and has been at home for a month, is now the interim CEO of all of WWE. This is some big news. Um, I did not see this news when I put out my breaking news stream earlier. You can find on the channel, but it was reported that Vince McMahon will retain his creative control for right now. So that means Vince McMahon is going to continue to write the shows. If you know anything about like mobsters, like if the mob boss goes to jail, he can still run the family in jail. They just go and talk to him and ask him what he wants to do. So even if Vince McMahon's in jail, there's always a chance that he's going to still have the final say on some of these shows. I'm not to say that Vince will go to jail or anything like that. And we have seen him Vince McMahon has stepped down from CEO of WWE before. This was before they were a publicly traded company, but this was back in around 1993 when there was he had to go to federal court for a steroid trial. Vince McMahon was accused of handing out steroids to his employees and encouraging them to use them. So Vince McMahon was terrified about he was going to lose that. Somehow miraculously he won, kind of thanks to Hulk Hogan lying in under oath. And even though Hulk Hogan was no longer working for Vince McMahon and was about to work against Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan testified in Vince McMahon's favor. Vince McMahon avoided the big jail time and he became CEO or owner of the company once again. When last time Vince McMahon stepped down, he gave it to his wife, Linda. Linda has not been with the company ever since she tried to join the U.S. Senate. And she has not been on the board of directors or anything like that. Shane McMahon doesn't even own any of his stocks in WWE anymore. He liquidated all that and cashed out. And Stephanie and Triple H, throughout the last 6 to 8 months, have slowly but surely seemingly had their power reduced. We don't know. I went into a lot of this, and I will get to SmackDown soon. But the long story short, Vince McMahon today announced stepping down as CEO. Stephanie McMahon, his daughter, stepping in as interim CEO. Vince McMahon will reportedly remain in control of the creative and how he runs the shows. And then it was told that Vince McMahon will be on SmackDown, and I think basically they said he was going to start SmackDown. So sure enough, Vince McMahon did start SmackDown, and I'll get to that. Just a quick maybe who done it, and we got to bring in Nick Khan's name. Nick Khan was brought in to be Vince McMahon's right hand man as far as running the business side of things in WWE. Nick Khan was key in getting all the billion-dollar deals that WWE had crossed the line in the last couple of years, including, I don't know if he was there for the Fox, but he definitely was there for the Peacock and the Saudi Arabia deals that are coming in currently, as well as the 180 talent that was released over the last 2 years. And seemingly it looks like Nick Khan has now placed himself in a position to maybe take over WWE. We don't know exactly how that succession would work, but it's something to look into as we go forward here. Again, Vince McMahon, it's basically they have it in on document that he did pay this woman and that there was it looks like she got, basically it was one of those things, she probably would have got fired if she said no. They doubled her pay instead, and then she was quote unquote passed around like a toy between Vince McMahon and Johnny Laurinaitis, one of his right hand men, who I'm assuming will be the fall guy at some point here. I'm assuming Johnny Laurinaitis will be fired, and Vince McMahon will probably escape most of the wrath. We'll see if he returns to his CEO spot at all, or if he never does, or if he continues to write the shows. But there was one key thing that happened tonight that 100% this is how Vince McMahon is booked for 30 years, plus maybe 40 years. And I'll get to that when I get to it. But 100% Vince McMahon was in charge of this show 100%. So, like I said, they told us that Vince was going to be on SmackDown. I assumed it was going to start SmackDown. And we also know that it's a big main event. Roman Reigns in his first match, or in his first title defense, I should say, Roman Reigns was in that 6-man tag against Drew McIntyre and RK Bro. But other than that, this is Roman's first match back. He's going to defend both titles, both the WWE and Universal titles against Riddle in the main event. And that match ends up being pretty good. So we'll get to that when we get there. I know a lot of people were thinking, oh, Triple H and Paul Heyman are going to be in charge already. Like Tommaso Ciampa and Finn Balor are going to win the titles and stuff like that by the end of this SmackDown. So I knew it wasn't going to be anything crazy like that, but I was interested, especially to see what Vince McMahon would do. So we get the opening of SmackDown, which is in Minneapolis, Minnesota tonight. Keep that in mind for a couple different things. So we are in Minneapolis tonight, and normally I wouldn't mention this, but we get the Then Now Forever Together signature opening. And then Vince McMahon's No Chance in Hell music hits. Vince McMahon comes out looking like nothing happened, looking like he's carefree and that he has no worries in the world. Huge smile on Vince's face. It was kind of awkward. And what was more awkward is that the crowd gave him a huge ovation. One of the biggest, other than Riddle, they loved Vince McMahon second most out of everybody tonight. And that was a little awkward. But that's neither here nor there. So McMahon gets in the ring, he gets on the microphone, and he says, "Oh yeah, that signature we just saw, those 4 words, now then forever together." And then Vince McMahon simply says, "Welcome to SmackDown," and he leaves. And then we get the intro of SmackDown that we only see once every like 5 months. So kind of an awkward opening there. I'm not too sure about the huge ovation he got. I understand he did a lot for the business, but there's also so many things on record that he also did bad for the business. So we'll see where this goes. It looked like what I was assuming Vince was coming out to do was like a goodbye as an on-screen character, and maybe as like someone on the TV show. This was going to be his goodbye. It could, in fact, turn out to be his goodbye, and he's just the kind of man that wouldn't want to like admit defeat and actually say goodbye. He might even tear up if Vince McMahon went out there and said goodbye. He probably would have teared up, and then he would have hated himself for crying on air. So Vince McMahon probably just put on a brave face. I'm not excusing anything he did, but I'm just saying in Vince McMahon's mind, he probably just went out there, put on a brave face, and wanted to show that he's not defeated. So a little awkward altogether. The intro plays, like I said, and Riddle comes on. I'm like, oh, is the title match now? But no, they tell us the title match will be the main event, and Riddle's out here first. So 2 different entrances for Riddle tonight. The crowd loves him, so no problems there. Riddle gets on the microphone and he says, "Before I kick Roman in the head and win the title, let's look at my history with Roman." So this is a common theme throughout tonight. It's almost as if creative had something else on their mind all day instead of writing SmackDown, because almost every segment is long and drawn out and more time than it needed to be with nothing happening. And there is a lot of recap video packages and stuff that if you're on your DVR, you can skip so much stuff in the SmackDown and probably watch the whole thing in just over an hour. There's that much recap and just standing around and stuff. So anyway, we get a long video here about the whole that starts with RKO losing the Raw titles to the Usos and how Randy got hurt. And then we get the last thing we see is Riddle beating Sammy last week in the main event. So that's how Riddle got the title match tonight. It's a long video, but when we get back, the crowd's cheering loudly. So they are really in the Riddle. And we get a big Randy chant as well. So or Riddle wishes Orton luck in surgery. He doesn't use the word surgery, but I think that's what he meant. And Riddle talks about how Randy sacrificed everything for 20 years. What up? What up, bro? What about all that big news? Oh my gosh. Stephanie McMahon now in charge. Then we could bring Triple H back in, bro. NXT Black and Gold is back. Tommaso Ciampa and Finn Balor are going to be the WWE and Universal Champion with Triple H at running everything. That's crazy, especially because Triple H just got stripped of all his powers like 8 months ago. So anyway, I'm still at the beginning of SmackDown here. Riddle just came out. We get a long video package. He says like he hopes Randy gets back, wishes him luck and stuff. He said Randy sacrificed everything for 20 years just to entertain us. Then the Riddle and the crowd are chanting "Thank you, Randy." So that was pretty cool. And Riddle dedicates his title win tonight to Randy Orton. So then Riddle wants them to play Randy Orton's music, and so they do, and the segment ends. So then Cole tells us the never-ending Happy Corbin Madcap Moss feud will finally culminate tonight. I'll believe it when I see it. This is just a never-ending feud that nobody wants. But anyway, we get another video recapping the long Madcap Moss Corbin feud. So yet another long video here. Like I said, a common theme of tonight. It seems like their minds were more on the Vince McMahon stuff than writing SmackDown tonight for sure. Then Moss comes out after that video, and the crowd doesn't really cheer him that much until the announcer says, "From Minneapolis, Minnesota." So the Minneapolis crowd didn't even realize Madcap Moss was from Minnesota, which was pretty funny. Once the ring announcer says he's from Minnesota, the crowd then cheers him. So that was pretty funny. And they told us last week this is a last laugh match, which we have no idea what that is. And they tell us here, if you lose, you get laughed out of the arena, which is terrible stipulation. But we'll see how this goes. Corbin comes out looking just kind of normal or whatever. And Corbin's got some good strikes to start. Corbin's always a good striker. Some good power moves to take down Corbin. So explosive power moves from Madcap Moss. Corbin then gets back in control with a big choke slam. So just getting a lot of big power moves here between the two big guys. Corbin almost gets counted out at one point, and he gets in at 9 and right into Madcap Moss's finisher, the punchline, which is like a variation of a neck breaker. And Moss gets fired up. The crowd cheers him on. He hits one more punchline finisher for the win. Moss laughs into the microphone, and he laughs his way to the back. So terrible segment. And unfortunately, this segment's not even over. But before we get to that, we go to the back, and the Street Profits are here on Raw. If you remember, they're the number one contenders for the Usos unified tag titles. And I'm not really quite sure what they said, other than it sounds like the Usos versus Street Profits for the titles will be at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, which is only a couple weeks away. So not too far away on that. We go back to ringside, and Corbin's still there somehow. He gets on the microphone. Corbin starts running his mouth at Pat McAfee for calling him stuff like bum ass Corbin and stuff. So that was kind of out of nowhere. We get decent promo. The crowd reacted well. Pat stands up. He gets on the microphone, and Pat McAfee's whole job here is to get the crowd to laugh at Corbin on his way out for the stupid last laugh match gimmick. So that was completely cringe and terrible. I don't think this is going to lead to a Corbin versus Pat McAfee match. I think it was only designed so that Pat McAfee can get the crowd to laugh Corbin out of the arena, which I don't think the crowd really did. So then we get a flashback to 20 years ago on SmackDown. Edge and Hulk Hogan winning the tag team titles on July 4th, 2002. So again, so many recaps and stuff. We go from that to a recap of Ronda beating Shotzi last week, and then Natty attacking Ronda after the match. So then we get Natty. She's in the back with Megan. Natty says Ronda's not here. She's at home licking her wounds. Natty says the armbar from Ronda is nice, but the sharpshooter is better. And Natty vows to be the first person to make Ronda tap out in WWE, which I don't think that's true, but maybe it is. Anyway, then we get Shanky dancing his way out behind Jinder. So we got a tag team match here, and it's going to be The New Day versus Jinder and Shanky. If you haven't been following this Jinder and Shanky storyline, Shanky seems to be turning face. He wants to just dance. Jinder wants to be serious, and they don't get along anymore. So they're still tag teaming here. I thought they were like already done with. Um, Once Jinder yells at Shanky to get in, Shanky gets in and big, really loud overhand chop to Kofi's chest, which Kofi already has like an um indentation on his chest, so that looked like it made it bigger. Shanky with a big chop. But then Xavier Woods gets on the trombone and plays a beat, which then Shanky just can't help himself but to dance to the beat. A little ridiculous, but it's whatever. Jinder tags in and immediately gets hit with the Trouble in Paradise kick from Kofi for the 1-2-3, and then Shanky dances even though he lost. So just break those two up already. This is basically the same thing we've seen maybe 3 times now. So then we get, if you remember last week, it looked like they were debuting the Viking Raiders, even though the Viking Raiders have already been on SmackDown for like a year. But anyway, they tell us the Viking Raiders return next week after another vignette or video package. And that makes me kind of think, I wonder if they're rebooting, if this is just like them trying their best to, because they knew the Viking Raiders were trash. So maybe they're going to stay the same and they're trying to act like they're new, or they might come back with a changed gimmick, maybe a little bit less Viking orientated and more of just two big guys that want to beat people up in a wrestling match. Or it might be the opposite, and they might be teaming up with Shanky and dancing before we know it here. So I'm interested to see what the Viking Raiders return next week as, if they're going to be the exact same or a little bit different. Then we get Drew McIntyre. He's out with his sword and in his street clothes. And we're told that Adam Pearce will decide if McIntyre or Sheamus will be going to the Money in the Bank. If you remember last week, Drew McIntyre fought Sheamus and it went to a no decision, double disqualification, and so nobody won. So we go to an ad break, and then we get reminded that Elias is going to be on concert on Raw. So looking forward to that. I have no idea what they're going to do. Ridge Holland's now back from injury, and he's in the back with Butch and Sheamus backstage before the curtain to go out. And Sheamus tells them this is super important, and he tells Ridge that he needs to keep Butch on a leash back here because this is very important. And so Sheamus goes out there, and the first thing Adam Pearce says is, well, you both failed to qualify. All right, case closed. Let's just move on then. Like, they both failed to qualify. What the heck? Keep that in mind as we go here. So, okay. But Drew and Sheamus both make their case why they should be the one selected to go through to the Money in the Bank ladder match. And Sheamus mentions that Drew would bottle it like he always bottles everything. If you guys don't know, bottle it means like he would choke. He would under the pressure. It was kind of funny. And then we get the whole video recap of last week. So again, just so many recaps tonight in video packages. Pearce then announces that both Sheamus and Drew McIntyre have qualified. So a completely pointless segment, completely pointless to all the other losers of qualifying matches and people that didn't even get qualifying matches. Just really dumb, but whatever. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But to start the segment by saying you both failed to qualify, and then end the segment by saying you have both qualified is completely stupid. So Sheamus tries to jump Drew McIntyre. He gets a Claymore to the face, and Drew McIntyre does like a sexy strip of his t-shirt like Shawn Michaels would. So to end the segment, that was a little awkward. Sami Zayn's now in the back, and he's standing in front of Roman Reigns' locker room. If you remember last week, Sami Zayn lost the Riddle, which means because of that Sami Zayn loss, Roman had to defend his titles tonight against Riddle. So Sami's looking nervous, and he seems like he really can't bring himself to knock. He's too scared to knock on Roman Reigns' locker room's door. So Sami Zayn turns around to walk away, but he gets scared because Kayla Braxton was right behind him. That was pretty funny. She asked him if Sami thinks there's any ill will because of Sami losing last week, which makes Sami freak out. And he says says, "No, everything's great. Like I'm an honorary Uce." And Sammy says he's got to go to the bathroom instead of knocking. So Sammy quickly runs out of the scene. And we get Smiley Raquel Rodriguez on her way to the ring, where they looks like they softened her up even more with her hair and makeup. Like part of Raquel's, like what made Raquel great when she was NXT is that she had those sharp edges to her. But the more they soften her and the more they make their smile, like she loses that sharp edge. Like Rhea Ripley has that same sharp edge to her. Like I don't really understand it, but maybe it'll work. We'll see where it goes. It's not like I hate Raquel just because she's smiling and putting more makeup on and highlighting her hair and stuff like that. Of course, I'm still gonna give her a chance. She's basically the same in the ring. It's just the character changed. So we'll see where this goes. In a little box pre-taped interview set, Raquel says that she will qualify for the Money in the Bank. So this is going to be a Money in the Bank qualifier. It's going to be Raquel Rodriguez, Raquel Rodriguez versus Shayna Basler next. And man, I much would have preferred Shayna Basler, but it looks like Raquel's getting a pretty good push, and Shayna hasn't been taken serious in over a year. So we go to an ad break, and damn, when we come back, Lacey Evans is one of the guest announcers alongside Pat and Michael Cole. And Pat yells in Lacey's face, "Hoorah!" at one point, which was funny because he was like right in her face. When Shayna comes out, she's in a little box with a promo recorded earlier, and she says she's going to beat Raquel not only physically but mentally. So we'll see if that happens. Michael Cole mentions that Lacey was in Money in the Bank before, the one that was on top of the roof during the pandemic. We get some great offense by Shayna at the beginning here. She's just great. Shayna's an amazing wrestler with a bunch of different moves that nobody else does. And Lacey's completely annoying on the announcing for this, which brings the match down, in my opinion. And we get a shot in the back, and it's Shotzi and Aaliyah standing next to each other, watching this match side by side. And it seems a little awkward since they've kind of been feuding, but then we're told that Shotzi and Aaliyah will fight each other next week in the last qualifier. Or they don't say last qualifier, but seeing that next week's SmackDown is getting close to the Money in the Bank, I'm assuming we'll find out more of the Raw qualifiers, and that might be the last one. So Shotzi versus Leah next week in a qualifier. We get a good clash of styles in this match between Shayna and Raquel, but it doesn't last too long. We get a nasty Tejano bomb out of nowhere from Raquel to win, so kind of lame on the ending, just out of nowhere. And then all of the yelling that Pat McAfee does encouraged Lacey to yell really awkwardly after the match, and it was just like Pat and Michael Cole just both went silent because it was awkward and funny as hell because of it. We see Riddle warming up in the back now, and he gets a fist bump from Shinsuke Nakamura. So we know going into this main event match that Street Profits and Shinsuke Nakamura are all here in the arena in case Riddle needs some backup, because we all know that Roman has the Usos and Sami Zayn watching his back if he needs it. So something to keep in mind, that the Street Profits and Shinsuke are here for Riddle if he needs them. We get Max Dupree is introduced by the ring announcer. There's a spotlight in the ring where it was kind of funny that Pat McAfee said, "Is that John Cena?" Because there was a spotlight in the ring with nobody there. So the whole the overplayed and outplayed you can't see me joke, but it was still kind of funny. Anyway, we get like model music's played, and we're told Max Dupree is introduced, like I said. But then we cut to the back, and Max Dupree's in Adam Pearce's locker room, really close to him again. And Max says he didn't get the correct intro he wanted for tonight, so he's not going to introduce to the world his new clients in the Maximum Male Models, which is kind of disappointing. I've been interested to see where this goes. But then we get Max Dupree standing really close, or getting his face right up to Adam Pearce's face. And Max Dupree tells us he wants the Maximum Male Models here because it'll titillate the juices of everyone's guilty pleasures. So I thought that was pretty funny. Then we get a recap, so yet another recap, and this one is of Gunter beating Ricochet last week for the Intercontinental title, and then Kayla backstage introduces us to Gunter, but Ludwig takes the microphone instead, and you can hear the crowd chant Walter in the background. So this is what I was talking about earlier when I said 100% Vince McMahon is still in charge of all creative. And this is what tells me Vince McMahon is indeed still in charge of creative, because out of nowhere, now Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther are anti American foreigners. Where have we seen that before? So they were perfectly fine just being straight up heels. You didn't have to throw "I hate America." And basically, Ludwig Kaiser says the IC title was born in South America. It was held by many great international superstars, and Gunther and Ludwig are now anti-American and say an American will never hold this title ever again. So, oh man, that confirms old man Vince is still in charge. Unfortunately. So we know where this goes. It'll probably lead to like a John Cena eventually beating him. Oh god. Anyway, it's Riddle's now out for the main event, and we still got 30 minutes left, but we do go to an ad break before the match starts. But yeah, Riddle's out here for his second entrance of the night, and an even bigger cheers from the crowd. The crowd, this Minneapolis crowd, really loves Riddle. They say this is Riddle's first world title shot. Roman comes out with the Usos and Paul Heyman. The Bloodline holds up their 6 titles. Big boos from the crowd. Some of the biggest boos I've heard for Roman in a while. It's probably mostly because how much they love Riddle and they really wanted to see Riddle win the titles tonight. But I'm sure a little bit was because people are resenting the fact that Roman got both world titles and then wants to go on summer vacation all summer. So probably a little bit of combination of the two, but I would say more in favor of they just really liked Riddle, so they didn't like Roman by proxy. Anyway, big boos, crowds completely behind Riddle here, and I'm thinking, man, I would just maybe think about giving Riddle the title here. Just we need new stars, and this crowd was really, really wanting to see Riddle win the title. There would have been a huge reaction, so I was hoping that would be the case, but I was not going to hold my breath, of course. I didn't think Roman was going to lose in a match that was only advertised for a week on free TV after 650 plus days or whatever. So wasn't going to hold my breath. We go to an ad break before the match starts, and then when we come back, they tell us next week SmackDown will have that Shotzi versus Aaliyah qualifier I talked about, but there'll also be a men's qualifier, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn, and if it's only 20% of how good their NXT Takeover match was, then it'll be a great match. Even if it only hits 20% of what that was, that's how good that match was. Plus, we'll be getting Gunther defending the IC title against Ricochet. So Ricochet getting his rematch, and SmackDown will be in Austin, Texas. Just one thing to note. I feel like Austin, Texas is a crowd that might cheer Gunther. A very progressive crowd that probably isn't going to be into the anti-American. It's not your prototypical Texas crowd. A lot of people have moved to Austin, Texas from California, which the rest of Texas is not happy about. Anyway, Samantha Irvin does the announcement. She's the ring announcer, so she does the whole pageantry around the world title. The crowd's super hyped. Most boos I've heard Roman get in a while, like I said. Riddle comes out super fast, almost with a Superman punch, but more of a forearm, and can't knock Roman down, and all it takes is one uppercut from Roman to knock down Riddle. So that's the very beginning right there. Roman stays in control out of this, but Riddle gets it back after a little bit, and we get a floating bro from the apron, or maybe even on the ropes, to Roman Reigns on the outside, and that's our first ad break. This match has a lot of ad breaks, and it definitely disrupts the flow of the match, in my opinion, majorly. Like almost at least a half star, almost a star, would have to be taken down just because of the ad breaks. So we quickly go to an ad break before much happens. When we get back, crowd is already going nuts as if we missed like good stuff. Riddle's down. Roman's looking for the Superman punch already. It's countered by a knee, and then we get an Orton power slam. So Riddle again showing all his Orton moveset that he's now inherited. Riddle tries to do goes to the attempt the draping DDT that Orton does. Riddle tries to attempt that, but he almost throws Roman all the way to the outside, like to the mat. So a little bit of a botch there, but Roman was always gonna counter that anyway. And um, then we get Roman on the outside after countering that, does that Orton slam like that he did to the Singh brother and many other people, where Orton slams people on the announce table. So Roman does that, the Riddle, and then Roman looks right into the camera. Oh wait, no. I mean, maybe that's a little bit later. But maybe this is here. But Roman looks right into the camera and yells, like calls out Orton right after doing the Orton move. So at a point here, we get an RKO block. So Riddle's trying the RKO. Roman blocks it, hits the Superman punch. Riddle gets his shoulder up at like 2.9. Paul Heyman's yelling at Roman at this point. And oh no, I did skip some stuff. So I skipped one of the ad breaks. Um, Pat at one point says that he's had as many matches as since Roman has since WrestleMania, which I don't think is true. Maybe singles matches, but um, Riddle gains control again with another floating bro for a near fall. And then Roman almost wins with a Uranagi. So some good back and forth stuff here. Riddle crosses the outside of the ring to recover, but Roman stalks him. And that's when Roman does the Randy Orton slam to the announce table, looks into the camera and calls out Orton as we go to a second ad break. So now we're back. Crowd's going nuts. This is the part where it seems like we missed something. Riddle's down. Roman's looking for the Superman punch. Countered by the knee, then the Orton slam, then the try for the draping DDT, but then Riddle does the Orton slam on the announce table like that was done to him earlier. So this is where we get the RKO blocked by Roman into a Superman punch. Riddle just barely gets out. Heyman's yelling at Roman. Right? Roman fires up. The crowd's booing. We get a spear countered into an RKO. Everyone thought that was it. 2.9, but Roman kicks out. Another floating bro to a downed Roman, and again looks like it could have been close. He goes for the RK bro or the RKO, and it's blocked. Riddle tries to then springboard, maybe a springboard kick or something, but is countered into a spear. 1, 2, 3. Roman Reigns retains. Usos come out. Crowd is booing. Bloodline holds up all 6 titles. Roman Reigns gets on the mic and says, "Well, there's no one left." And he said, "Over 2 years ago, I said I'm going to wreck everyone and then leave. And now we're leaving." So the crowd boos. He tells Minneapolis to acknowledge me, even bigger boos. And I'm basically about the right, like, and then the show ends. So I thought it was over. They got me on this one. So this was a pretty good surprise. Not what everyone would have wanted, but it seems like the original plan for SummerSlam was Roman Reigns defending the titles against Orton, and now Orton's injured. So they went to the old reliable backup plan, and I had completely not thought of it at all, even though we're in his hometown. Before SmackDown can end, Brock Lesnar's music hits, and Brock Lesnar's on his way out. He's on the ramp, and we get a stare down between Brock. Brock laughs at Roman, extends his hand to shake his hand. Roman's hesitant about it, but then goes to shake it. F5 to Roman. Usos both get F5. The crowd goes crazy, and then SmackDown ends. So, wow. Pretty good unexpected ending. A lot of people are going to be like, "Oh my God, not another Roman Brock match." And I'm with you. I've been tired of those matches for many years now. Um, it's just at this point, I don't even really care about Roman and the title. It's just like I care about everything else that's around it. It's the Roman, like it's not that exciting of a story per se. So it's no bother to me if Roman and Brock are fighting for the titles, and then we can just have our fun elsewhere. That's just kind of the way I'll think about it. I'm a jaded fan that was in all those crowds in 2006 and 2007, losing my voice, booing John Cena out of the building, and not knowing that really I was just because I was with that crowd booing, we were making it so that WWE was always going to have Cena as champion because they can get the young kids and the gullible adults to buy his merchandise, and then the rest will boo him and treat him like a heel all at the same time. So that I don't think it worked. What they ended up doing is losing like 80% of their audience. If you go look from the Attitude Era until now, it's like an 80% drop, maybe more. And Hopefully, Vince McMahon isn't in creative that much longer. Again, showing his old age tonight with, do we really need Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser to be anti-American foreign heels? Come on, bro. Come on. So that was terrible. Lacey Evans was terrible on the microphone, on the announcing. Raquel's continued to be just softened, and all her cool, rough edges are slowly being softened, to the detriment of things, I believe. Riddle looked like a superstar. Riddle looks like he could be one of the main players going forward. This entire year plus of being an RK Bro has just elevated him to the moon. Randy Orton kind of doing the same favors as was done with him when Randy Orton was in Evolution as a youngster. Of course, Riddle had a little bit more of a name behind him before RK Bro, as Orton didn't have that big of a name behind him when he joined Evolution. But you get the idea I'm saying. So it's good to pass it on. That's what wrestling's all about. Stuff like, hopefully when John Cena does come back, he just loses clean to Theory. I'm sure even if he does lose, it's going to be by nefarious means and stuff like that. But if you're going to tell us week after week that Austin Theory is the next big star, then he should be beating people like Cena, who's definitely a part timer because he's in Hollywood. So, um, different things to look forward to. We'll see what happens on Raw. We've got that Elias concert. I'm not quite sure what else is announced or what they announced from last week, but I'm pretty sure we'll get some more qualifying matches. I believe there's 3 more spots in the women and at least like 4 for the men. So a lot to be decided still, and we'll continue to keep our ear to the ground with all this news. The latest news is that it's not confirmed that Sasha Banks has been released, but where there's smoke, there's usually fire. So any moment or any day, we could find out that Sasha Banks has been released from WWE, opening a whole new Pandora's box of opportunities. There's been no word on if Naomi is looking for a release or not. No word on that front. But again, we haven't seen the tag team titles ever since then, and the SmackDown's women division in general is terrible right now. Um, no, Again, nothing to build up the SmackDown women's division tonight, and really no exciting matches tonight other than the main event. And I would say the main event was taken down by the 2 commercial breaks. So I just couldn't really get into it. There wasn't enough action before yet another commercial break, and took me out of the match. So even that main event match wasn't the greatest. So this SmackDown, I would say, gets a thumbs down from me. I was maybe spoiled from last week's SmackDown where I thought it was great. Every match other than the Lacey Evans match last week was great. And then this week it was back to normality. And um, hopefully next week they can be better. Like I said, they were probably more concerned about the Vince McMahon CEO stuff than they were writing a show tonight. And we'll go from there. So I will be back really soon. Once this ends, I'll be live for the Rampage, AEW Rampage review, and I'll be doing that as soon as this ends and I get everything set up. So, and then when I finish that, I'll be here for the NXT Level Up review. So I have 2 more reviews to do tonight, and then I think before tomorrow afternoon, the New Japan show review will be up. And in this New Japan show, it has repercussions for the AEW All Atlantic title. So I'll be reporting on all of that. And again, if any big news comes out, I'll let you guys know. So thanks for tuning in. And I'll talk to you next time. Peace.